Hello, Thursday, May 14th. Read the article and answer the questions. News ELA article. It is titled Opinion. Democrats are barring socialist policies, but not ideology. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is a rising political star. In June 2018, the 28-year-old easily defeated longtime New York Representative Joseph Crowley in the Democratic primary race. She's expected to defeat her Republican challenger in the general election this November. She did. This is an article from a while ago. Nearly as impressive to her story is that she ran as a Democratic socialist rather than a traditional Democrat. After this primary, Democrat House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi said that this win in one district is not to be viewed as something that stands for everything else. Her dismissiveness highlights the tension between socialists and Democrats. Republicans, big believers in America's capitalist system, have traditionally said socialism is something to fear. Democrats, on the other hand, have tried to show themselves as different from socialists while sometimes adopting socialist causes. This dynamic has kept socialists at the margins of American politics, even as their policies have become mainstream. Ebbs and flows of socialism in the U.S. The history of socialism in the United States is chaotic, its popularity shifting with the economic and political landscape. Socialists in the early 1800s wanted to end slavery and established short-lived utopian communities. In the mid-1800s, German philosopher Karl Marx released his famous political pamphlet, the Communist Manifesto. It called the working people to overthrow the capitalist government and social systems that he said use people for profit. Soon, the arrival of German immigrants in the U.S. brought Marxism and the founding of the Communist and Socialist parties. In 1901, Eugene Debs co-founded the Socialist Party of America. It never had more than 100,000 members, but the Socialist Party was able to elect numerous candidates to local government positions countrywide. Debs received more than 900,000 votes when he ran for president in 1912 and 1920. Yet, despite these wins, socialists remained outside of power. In 1919 and 1920, labor groups began rising up. Anarchist groups who were anti-government carried out bombings in the U.S. Meanwhile, communists took power in Russia, toppling the former monarchy there. This led to the first Red Scare, red being the chosen color of socialist parties. Certain politicians began a campaign of propaganda and targeted raids against groups on the far left, including socialists. This soon ended, but it left a lasting image of socialism as an enemy of the state. Socialism was associated with Russian communism and characterized as a dangerous foreign force that stood against democracy. Democrats and Republicans both took up the anti-socialist cause. FDR steps in to counter the Great Depression. In the 1930s, after the Great Depression led to poverty and economic decline, President Franklin D. Roosevelt passed New Deal legislation. It introduced the broad idea that the government had a responsibility to ensure the welfare of its people. This was certainly a shade redder than American policy in the past. In 1934, writer Hale Lasky noted that Roosevelt's policies were aimed at ensuring capitalism was the servant and not the master of the American people. Under Roosevelt, the modern balance between the mainstream parties and socialism was established. The Democrats would borrow from socialist policy proposals while disavowing the ideology to fight off attacks from Republicans. When he was slammed as a socialist by Republican politicians, Roosevelt defended himself by denying the connection rather than defending the merits of socialist ideas. Socialism became a truly toxic word in the mid-20th century. In 1947, Senator Joseph McCarthy began another Red Scare, accusing people of being socialists or communists. For the rest of the century, socialist was one of the dirtiest words in politics, helped along by I can't speak. Helped along by figures like President Ronald Reagan. Some far-left ideas were revived in the 1960s and 70s, but they didn't much stick. Tensions between the Republican Party and socialists remained strong throughout the 20th century. However, the relationship was much more complex between the socialists and Democrats. Shades of red can be seen in Democratic policies, like making college more affordable and increasing access to health care. Still, Democrats insist on saying they are a different party. President Lyndon B. Johnson dismissed accusations that he was promoting socialism. Still, his landmark Great Society legislative program and war on poverty included civil rights legislation and Medicare. Reagan warned these would bring about socialism in the United States. In the 1990s, Bill and Hillary Clinton made efforts to pass healthcare legislation after Reagan, but were met with cries of socialism from the right. President Bill Clinton responded to this much as Roosevelt had, defending his programs while denying any association with socialist ideas. In 1998, he even equated socialism with tyranny during a speech. Obama Clinton dismissed socialism. Under President Barack Obama, the right often would label government policies such as the Affordable Care Act as socialist, which became a running joke to Democrats. Still, Obama encouraged those who accused him of being socialist to meet real socialists and defended his policies by citing his belief in capitalism. Even in 2015, Hillary Clinton was dismissive of socialism. During a debate, she said the US is not Denmark, a country many Americans say has a democratic socialist system. In 2016, commentators frequently remarked that presidential candidate Bernie Sanders, a self described Democratic socialist, had pulled Clinton to the left during the campaign. Whether true or not, that sentiment captures a relationship between the Democrats and socialists for over a century. Socialists have long been kept from power while still offering ways forward. However, this dynamic can't hold for long. Income inequality continues to rise. The gig economy is creating harsh working conditions, and social justice issues are going unresolved. Clinton even suggested that by identifying as a capitalist, she risked distancing some potential Democratic votes. So, will this revived interest in socialism be sustained, and will Democrats make space for socialism? Republicans continue to decry socialism as a threat to society. Meanwhile, the Democrats have a chance to capitalize on the momentum of young, up and coming leaders such as Ocasio Cortez and welcome socialists into the fold for the first time. Woohoo! I personally love Alexandria Ocasio Cortez. She's really cool. Um, there are, as usual, 4 questions in relation to the article. Um, Question number 1, number 2, number 3, options here, number 4. Stop. We're reading chapter 6 of Animal Farm. All right, my friends, I'll be back to read Animal Farm to you next. Wow, this article is long. All right.